Years ago, Rich, people were faced with a decision, and many still are. What console do I get when I need one console? Xbox One or PlayStation 4? For the sports gamer, that conversation has evolved over the years as to which console was really preferred. At first, it was PlayStation 4, and it was really a no-brainer. Microsoft was rolling out or attempting to roll out some anti-consumer initiatives with their Xbox. They got hit hard in terms of perception. They're still trying to recover from that. PlayStation had kind of that really supportive base of people behind it. And then it also had some perks as far as sports games go, because it's the only console that has a real baseball game, for example. So I get questions all the time, and I even one just the other day. Which console should I get? Which console should I get Madden on? Which console should I get NBA 2K on? And I think it's interesting to examine where they've come from and where they stand now, because for the most part, third-party titles are going to be essentially the same on both. But there are different features to the consoles, and there's different games that are offered that are exclusive or temporarily exclusive to these consoles that you have to consider. So we were playing our EA Sports Hockey League the other night, Rich, and you mentioned to me, you said, or we were discussing what console we were going to play NHL on. And you said you had started to get a leaning towards Xbox One just in general. So I thought it'd be interesting to examine your thoughts behind that, the reasoning behind that, and then just see where have these consoles gone now? Where do they stand now? And how does that really affect the sports gamers out there?
Yeah, it's interesting because, as you say, when the PS4 and the Xbox One launched a couple of years ago, right in the same week, basically, it was a no-brainer for us to go with the PlayStation 4 for all of the sports games. It's where more of the people that we knew were playing the sports games.
Cheaper. It was cheaper too. Yeah.
Less expensive as well. Yeah. So it was not a question. Now, I have a hard time recommending against the Xbox One. I'm an EA Access member. That right there gives me a whole lot of games right off the bat. A couple of years of FIFA, some NBA Lives, a couple of years of Madden. There's a bunch of other stuff. You get to play the games 5-6 days earlier before they come out. So this fall, during the fall blitz, you'll be able to play Madden for either 6 to 10 hours. Something like that. You get to play NHL, you get to play NBA before it. If you're wondering whether NBA Live is any good and you're on in EA Access, you don't have to wonder whether NBA Live is any good. There's a tremendous amount of value that EA Access brings you, between the games that it gives you from 6 months ago and longer, as well as getting to play the new ones early at no additional cost. The one and only thing is baseball. If you love baseball, PlayStation 4 is the console. If you're not a baseball guy or gal, the Xbox One for people who love sports games, to me, is the no-brainer. It's got more to offer than the PlayStation console does right now.
There might be a little more than just baseball for PlayStation 4 in its favor right now, and that's indie games. We had Super Mega Baseball for 8 months exclusively PS4 before it's going to reach Xbox One this month, but it's been out since December on PlayStation 4. And then there's Rocket League.
True.
Exclusive to PS4 and PC, so it's not on Xbox yet. We don't know when or if it will be. We assume it will be, but it's probably going to be quite some time. So there seems to be a friendlier environment there for these indie games also, which with the success of them, we might start seeing more of in the future. That has to be a little part of the of consideration. There's also, essentially it comes down to preferences, though. If you don't care about baseball, you're basically back to even. If EA Access swings you, that's an Xbox One decision easily made. The problem is that so many people got in on the PlayStation 4 day one, or that was their first choice, years ago or last year or whatever it might be, that most people, their friends are PlayStation 4. You know, the third-party games tend to go PlayStation 4 because they're playing with their friends. So, you know, we may never make a transition, Rich, because we already made this commitment. We may never make a transition on Madden to Xbox One because we have this group of people we play online franchise with on PS4. We're locked in, essentially, right? So there's that. Really, it's hard to overcome for the Xbox One, is that people are kind of entrenched there right now.
However, who's to say that we don't go Xbox One for our EA Sports Hockey League hit the pass, right? Because when we start playing it a few days before everybody else, we get that experience, right? Because one of the other things is when you play the games early on the Xbox One on EA Access, all of your progression follows you along when the full game releases. And, you know, in something like EA Sports Hockey League, that progression means a lot. So, like, where I just am personally right now is for many months, probably even more than a year after the launch of the PS4 and the Xbox One, I barely turned on my Xbox One. Now, I'm going back and forth 50-50, right? I mean, I'm playing our MLB The Show quite a bit, and so obviously that's on my PS4. I'm still in our Madden League, so that's on my PS4. But I'm playing not just on the Xbox One, not just the NHL beta, because I got it through EA Access, and I'm going to be playing Madden early through EA Access. I'm going to be playing NHL early. I'm going to be playing FIFA early, right? Like, if we start talking about FIFA Pro Clubs and Ultimate Team, like, I could see me moving to the Xbox One for all except Madden because of the hook of the EA Access and the progression that brings along. And all it is to me, and people make fun of me, all I do is I unplug one HDMI cable and I plug in another one. It's a 4-second transition from the PS4 to the Xbox One. I know for other people it's quite different, and I know a lot of people don't have both. I mean, you know, I have both. I bought them myself because of, you know, what we do with Hit the Pass and with Press Row and the reviews that I get to do. But I mean, I am already moving much more towards the Xbox One than I ever was, and EA Access is really kind of shoving me for everything except, like you said, those legacy leagues and you know, friends that we have on PS4 on Madden.
Be honest, Rich, though, it's all about Connect for you, right?
My Connect still sits in my closet, never opened or connected. Never opened.
Oh, man.
TJ's been trying to buy that for me for almost 2 years now.
So there are some other differences in the consoles, too. PS4, you could make the case that it's more powerful. And we've even seen that in some of the sports games, which, you know, just for example, last year, NHL 15 and Pro Evolution 2015 ran at 1080p on the PS4 and 720p on Xbox One. We've also seen some frame rate differences between the two over the years. Now they're kind of equalizing here as developers get a better understanding of how to deal with the hardware and all that. But that was
what is interesting too, though, is the Xbox One no longer is the lead platform. So it seems like the games on the Xbox One tend to have more bugs and more issues. When the last generation, the Xbox 360 was the lead platform, so the PS3 versions of the games tended to have a little less. So that's an interesting sort of dynamic as well, you know, sort of a knock against the Xbox One.
Yeah, and then Xbox One has, you know, different media functions, and then I just mentioned Connect, other features no one cares about, like the fantasy football, which they tried to hype up at launch, which nobody, you know, that was never going to go anywhere. And then things like the Snap feature, where, look, I've used it sometimes where I've been playing a game on Xbox One and wanted a baseball game in the corner, because if you have that plugged into your cable, Rich, you can have your cable feed up there. So there's little things like that. And PS4 has, you know, Share Play, for example, which is another kind of big feature. I'm not sure how many people utilize, but we found it to be really awesome in terms of, you know, playing with somebody who doesn't even have the game you're playing together with. So a lot of cool options there. And then one more thing I would say, because last year I did a comparison of Madden on the two systems, and what I found was actually the Xbox One had a slight advantage, which is surprising, considering we just talked about, you know, where things are to lead platforms and how the PS4 is a little more powerful. But what I found is the controller for me. Now, I love the PS4 controller, but what it doesn't have is vibration in the triggers. And like in a game like Madden, it's amazing because you can use that to draw a guy off sides on an opposing team because their trigger vibrates and they're waiting there to do their defensive lineman control, right? Where you jump off the ball. And same on defense, you can use that to time the snap and stuff. Just little things like that as far as, which controller do you like better? Where are your friends at? That's really what it comes down to in the end. And then do you care about baseball or do you prefer EA access? That's what it's just the balance of those things, and it's going to differ person to person.
Yep, you nailed it. I mean, I love MLB 15, the show. One of these days, I'm going to write a 2 or a 3 part, piece for Hit the Pass on just how great the game is. I mean, it is wonderful. And so for me, I could never, I don't think, say, all right, I'm going to only go Xbox One. But like I said, I'm playing a lot of Xbox One sports games. I'm going to play more sports games on the Xbox One this fall than I ever had. And I know that it's going to be harder and harder for me to leave those 5 days of progression behind and go back to the PS4. The Rory McIlroy PGA Tour is a great example of that. I played it earlier on EA Access. I got 10 hours of progression into my career. And then a few of my friends were playing it on PS4, and I plopped it in, and I started having to restart on the PS4, and I wound up kind of abandoning it, right? And I went back to the Xbox One playing Rory McIlroy, and the same thing's going to happen with the other games. I'm definitely in on the Xbox One this fall with the sports games. So
yeah, EA Access, it's really proven to be a great value, and it's starting to become a selling point. But really, when it comes down to this, you can't go wrong with either console. They're both fantastic. We've seen competition has really brought out the best in both of the companies. They're trying to innovate. They're coming up with ways to differentiate their products so that there might actually be a reason to own both. And then there's great games coming out on both systems. So it just comes down to preferences if you're making a decision between the two, and you're going to have fun with either one.